Hey everyone, just gonna go ahead and get started here. Wanted to do some introductions of myself and Jessica, who she is on this call as well, right here. And we met, I guess it's been 3 years, 2 years ago. Jessica was actually who trained me on my first charter yacht chefing experience. We had women that were all on a women's retreat, and we really connected then as we continued our journey separate. And now we're kind of back in the US Virgin Islands, and we've got more business than we can take care of. So that's kind of why we're getting on the call and telling you all the exciting opportunities that we have in store. So I'll let Jessica do a little background about herself and where she come from, and then I'll go ahead and talk about a brief background of myself as well, and then we'll get into the program.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, thanks for watching this recording. And yeah, I met Megan about 3 years ago, like she said, when I was chefing on this all women's retreat, which was amazing. But there was some things about it that were like, wow, we could totally plan this better in the future. So we'll get back to that later in the call. But I grew up homeschooled on a boat in the Bahamas, and I got my captain's license when I turned 18, and I always thought I would be in the yachting industry. And then I had kind of a health crisis when I turned 21 and quit drinking, and decided that the yacht industry was not for me because it's just so alcohol based. So I started a tea company and moved to Colorado and was like landlocked for a while and just really missed the ocean so much. So about 3 years ago, I let go of my company and started chefing on yachts. And I was in about 30 grand of credit card debt, kind of depressed and miserable and confused as to what to do in my life. And I had no idea that yacht chefing could be so lucrative and so fun and provide such an epic lifestyle. And I just really wish that someone told me that, like, when I was in college, because instead of slaving away at my own company, which, you know, life is what it was meant to be, I learned a lot during that experience. But had I gotten right into yachting at a younger age, I could, you know, own a few houses by now, pretty much be retired by now. So I'm really psyched to help people get into this industry, because it's a hard industry to get into. It's not really that simple. Like, take this course, get a job. Even though we know a lot of industries are not like that. Go to college and you'll get a job. It doesn't always work that way. So yeah, we're excited to share a little bit about what we've learned about this industry, some of the kind of dark sides of it as well, because it's definitely not for everyone. And yeah, I just really like helping people on both ends, helping the captains and boat owners get awesome crew, and helping people get on boats. And I'm particularly interested in helping people who are kind of part of like my tribe of light workery, I don't want to say hippie, but people who are, you know, on a personal growth path, maybe into health and wellness, because I think that those type of people will be most successful on boats. And it's just a pleasure to work with people like that, because a lot of people in the yachting industry are very heavy drinkers, a lot of cocaine, a lot of just unhealthy habits, and it can be hard to work with people who are just really upsy and downsy. So we're really excited to have you as part of our tribe. And I'll hand it over to Megan to kind of introduce herself. Oh, also, I'm in Colorado at the moment, which is a strange venue setting for this call. Yeah, just here for a week in the mountains, but I haven't even seen snow in a few years because I've been mostly living on boats in the Bahamas and in St. Thomas and all over the Caribbean, actually. So
Well,
yeah.
sometimes you need a little grounding and you go to the forest for that, but the ocean always calls you back. And that was the thing with me. I originally came down here as a charter guest with my father and traveling and sailing, and I fell in love with it. But then my corporate life was helping people and having a large team of interns and a large team of real estate agents, and how to get you into the business and how to get you busy, and also having support. Like Jess said, it's not the easiest industry
Whoa.
to get into.
All right. Yeah.
Hurricane coming straight at you, Jess.
I'm gonna have to pause because the umbrella just broke because there's wind because I couldn't get it to go down.
Oh
So unfortunately, maybe we can pause this and restart.
Yeah.
A situation happened.
I'll pause it.
I tried to bring it down.
So I started my career, my love of the ocean, let's say, not the career, but my passion for the ocean when I used to come down to the BVI with my father as a charter guest. So I always said I could vacation really well. I know how to exceed expectations because I set them high for myself. Also went into Zillow Group, worked in the corporate world. I was in real estate. I had 650 agents on my team. I always had an internship, was in multiple startup, real estate startup communities and businesses, and then went to Zillow Group corporate. And I had a huge team and trainers that I helped support, help grow their business, and many, if not all of them, are still in the same position or moved up in the company since I have left them. So I have a passion for people to do well. I love sharing my experience. If anybody follows my social media, you know I love to show you how beautiful this place is. And we have an opportunity to train you and get you into the business similar to like real estate. You have an investment. I help coach just like your broker, and you get to have this lifestyle. And so, what we're trying to introduce here is an opportunity to do just that. And I love being a coach. I love being the mama bird, and we're going to make sure that you are wildly successful in this industry. We've learned all the tips and tricks. We know what works, what doesn't, what groups to be part of, what communities, what paperwork you need in place, all of that. And most importantly, we get the leads for jobs. Right now, this week alone, I could have been on 5 different boats, and there's only one of me. And we have so much opportunity to crew these great boats with great people. All right, so we're going to jump into it and just kind of talk about the opportunity and just a little bit about the yachting industry and what we know. And then it'll start the conversation for any questions that you might have. So first of all, what roles are available on a boat? Most of the opportunities that we see are captain and chef opportunities. It's usually where you're going to make a decent amount of money, and then that would be like an 8-pack or under. So that's 8 guests. But anytime somebody gets 8 guests on a boat, they usually ask for a third to be involved, and a third would be somebody that could help with wines, also somebody that could help with the housekeeping items, almost like a stewardess role. And that's what Jess and I would be mainly working with. There are large motor vessels that have a huge staff. That's going to be a little bit more button up work, and that's where you're going to have to commit long term. And we'll get into the different types, but right now I freelance. I take a week at a time gigs, if you will. And then you can take a gig as a captain, a chef, or a third. And with the third, it would be really the internship that we're speaking of to kind of get your feet wet, if you will, mermaids and mermans, and get out on the ocean, because you have to have a reputation and a resume. So those are really the 3 types that we would be focusing on. You don't think anybody else, any stowaways, Jess?
Yeah, that's about it. Like some bigger catamarans will run with a crew of 4, which usually is the captain, the chef, and the stew is like the mate of the boat, and then the mate helps out the captain and is often the person taking people snorkeling and that kind of thing. So that's usually boats that are over 60 feet. And we're mostly focusing on boats that are between 40 feet and 60 feet in this call and with our internships. But just so you know, going up, like you said, a lot of the even bigger yachts will have, 5, 10, sometimes even 20 cargo,
Right.
like the below deck style kind of thing.
Yeah, and see, a lot of the opportunities that we find is a chef can't work. Somebody needs somebody to fill in, or it's a special occasion or it's more than 8 people, so they got to pull a third. So that's where a lot of the opportunities lie for charter yachts. So the different type of boats is you have a standard charter where a family will come in, or say it's a group of friends and they're doing some sort of celebration, and you get to help them experience life aboard a boat. So oftentimes you will have the standard charters. You do also have owners charters. So some people keep the boats as private vessels that they can use at their will. I just finished a charter where the owner was there for a full month, and we went kind of all over the place and really enjoyed. So there are owner charter opportunities as well as the regular charters. You would say a majority of what you do, Jess, is standard week-long charters.
Yeah, well, it's both. Like more charters, which like you said, are guests renting the boat. But I also have done a lot of owners trips. And one of the main differences that's important for us as crew to know is owners trips are not always tipped. That's something that you kind of negotiate beforehand. Like boats that are totally private means they don't charter at all and it's just the owner. And so the crew often will get a higher salary because they're not expecting charter tips. And the charter industry, you're really working for your tips. So the day rate might even be the same or less than your tip. And yeah, that's the biggest thing. Some owners will tip as if it's a charter, which is 20% is like the tip that we're going for. I think you'll talk about that a little bit more in the
Yeah,
pricing.
you've actually like led into my next point that I was going to bring up exactly, and that is, how do you get paid? At the beginning of this, like any type of business, you're going to have to invest some. So you're going to have to invest into your credentials. In real estate, you had to invest into real estate school. You have to have a certain amount of credentials here for certain charters, certain regions. So we know all of the different types of red tape that there is in the industry. So once you do get on a boat, you would look for a day rate and then a tip. And the day rate sometimes is higher because you're doing an owner's charter, but typically you're working off tips. So if a charter is going to be 30,000 for the week and you have 3 people on board, then you would split those tips according to how the agreement is laid out between the crew. But that's when you're fully up and going, you would get, you know, a lot more of your money from the tips and the commission. Day rates, they can spread all over the place from just getting started to where you can command a higher rate. And then that goes into, I think I've kind of covered the qualifications that you would need. Again, this is something that if you guys get interested, we can talk through the fire safety things that you need, how much that costs to get up and going in the industry. But Jess, you want to talk about the not so, the other side of the world, the highs and lows, the peaks and valleys of what it's like as an actual crew on charter? Yeah, it's not always just beautiful sunrises and sunsets.
Totally. Yeah. So people look at our Instagram and Facebook posts and it looks like we are living the dream life, cooking yummy food, not paying rent, not paying for our food, snorkeling every day, living on a beautiful yacht. And like, yes, that's all true. And there's a whole nother side of it that I'll kind of share a little bit right now. Like, to be completely honest, on most charters, I have a day or several days, sometimes if I'm lucky, just a few hours, where I am like, fuck this. I will literally never do this again. This is like slavery. It's torture. Like, no amount of money is worth this. And that's because you're working really hard for, 10 to 16 hours a day, oftentimes not getting enough sleep and not getting enough personal time or personal space. Oh yeah, we have somebody joining right now.
Yeah, I know.
Do we want to, are you gonna let her in? Hi. Oh yeah, Stephanie. Hi.
Hi. Sorry I'm late.
No
No
worries.
worries.
Just talking through everything. And if we do run out of time on the meeting, then we can always just do a follow-up.
Yeah,
So,
so
Stephanie.
we're making a recording that can be shared for everyone who couldn't make it.
Okay.
So you're actually the only one physically on the call. So we'll probably have you, we're gonna kind of keep going through with the bullet points of what we're talking about, and you can just listen in, and then at the end, we'll have you introduce yourself and we'll offer advice for any questions you have, and then you
Cool.
can come back and listen to the beginning of the recording once we post that, so you can get that info. Does that sound good? Awesome. So yeah, I was talking a little bit about the dark side of yachting, and yeah, a lot of us, need our personal space and personal time and free time, and are not used to, we're used to working for maybe 6 hours straight or 8 hours straight, but working for 10 to 16 hours straight is a lot. So a typical day for a yacht chef might look like, well, for me, I usually try to wake up before all the guests and go for a quick swim, because that's like keeps me sane. So I'll wake up at like 5:30 or 6, go for a quick swim, and then I'm cleaning, I'm cutting fruit, I'm prepping breakfast. Guests wake up and you make breakfast, but by the time you're done with breakfast, it's usually like 10 or 11, and you clean up, and then all of a sudden you need to make lunch. So you're prepping lunch, and then everyone eats lunch and you clean up lunch, and then maybe you'll have an hour or two, but it's usually not free time. Maybe you'll take the guests snorkeling, which is really fun. When you're underway, meaning like sailing from one place to another, you often have some time to kind of rest, because it's really hard to chef when you're underway if you're moving. So that's, for me, the hardest part is just like being on for that many hours in a row, and then at dinner, you're prepping dinner from maybe 5 to 7, and then you're serving dinner, and then appetizers, dinner, dessert, and then cleaning. And by the time you're done cleaning, it's already like 10, sometimes 11, and you're still serving guests drinks. So you're going to sleep around 11 or 12 and waking up around 6. So that's challenging. And then the other aspect, or there's 2 other points I want to cover. Like, one is the crew that you're working with. So if you have an awesome captain, or if you're working on a boat with 2 or 3 people, just like other awesome crew, it's really amazing. Like, everyone's helping each other. It's a great vibe, and you just get through it. And especially if you have fun guests, it can be really great. If you have crew that you don't get along with, like, a captain who's an asshole, or almost most boats that I get on, like before I was there, they had some crazy chef who is up and down with their emotions, and it just makes the charter really hard if you're not vibing with a crew. So that's one of the reasons we're so passionate about putting this together, is trying to like get a group of crew who are just at least awesome people who can get through it together, whatever their skill level is. If it's super amazing and you're doing, really fancy stuff, or if you can just get a good meal out on the table, if you're a lovely person that's not freaking out. So for me in the beginning, I would get really stressed with timing and kind of be in a stress state all the time, which is not the vibration that anyone wants to be in. So as I've gotten better and I'm better at prepping, I'm able to stay more in like a flow state and keep that kind of fun vibe in the galley. And the last thing is the guests. Like, some guests, as you can imagine, are just really sweet, loving families or cool groups of people. And then other times they can be really demanding. They can get really drunk. And, you can get through anything in a week, but yachting is kind of like having a long, awkward sleepover with a group of people or a family that you've never met. It doesn't really happen in other parts of the world. If you're renting a house, you're not sharing that house. Like, even if it's the Airbnb, you're not all usually like sharing this really small space together all the time. So, yeah, those are some of the dark sides of it. Megan, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, if we wanted to sit on this call forever, I could tell you some horror stories and change everybody's name so nobody knows in the business what it is. There are horror stories, but also you're there to help people experience life. And usually it's a big celebration for them. And it's such an honor to be part of that. But yeah, there's highs and lows. And that's why the mentorship and knowing what we've learned along the way is so helpful. So you don't get that burnout that everybody kind of has in this industry.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's one thing that I'm really excited to offer. Before this, I was a health coach and then a therapist, and I do a lot of coaching, emotional integration coaching, and I really want to help charter crew, particularly chefs, manage their emotions so that they can enjoy the experience and you can stay healthy while making good money, because no amount of money is worth risking your mental and physical health. So we're really here to support you all in that. If you do join our internship and mentorship program, we're going to be available for you to text and call throughout the charter. You know, maybe you're like, is it appropriate for the captain to be doing this or that? And we'll try to help you out. I really wish that I had that.
The
I didn't
answer
really-
is usually no, it's not appropriate, but unfortunately, and that's kind of why we want to have the group of great individuals, so we don't have that problem anymore.
Yeah, and we really want to try to match you all with great captains who we know personally. So even if you're part of this group and you are already in the industry, we're going to check your references. We're going to, look at your resumes and make sure that people enjoy working with you, because the skill level is something you can always build. We're all going to start, somewhere, and then, but the personality thing, some people are willing to work on that and some aren't. So, yeah, right now we're placing, like, I have a friend who's going to intern with us for the first 2 weeks of July. She has been in the restaurant industry for many years, and she used to sail as a kid, but she doesn't have much boating experience. So for that trip, my boyfriend is the captain. It's a 90-foot power boat, and she's coming as our third, and she's getting paid a small amount. But she's gonna be, learning from me and from Scott how to do all the stew stuff, how to make the beds and all the stuff that the stew or the maid of the boat does, the mate stuff, which is really key to learn. It's not that hard, but you got to learn certain knots. You got to learn how to anchor and get a mooring and set the fenders. So what's interesting about these smaller boats is, as a chef, you're not just in the kitchen like you are on boats that are maybe over 100 feet, where you're really just a chef and you don't really touch much of the boat stuff. On the catamarans that are 40 to 60 or 70 feet, you're really doing it all, which is why you need to do the special certifications usually to get the job, the safety certification. So yeah, we're working with other captains and management teams to find people who want to have a third on their boat so that we can get you all your first jobs. And that brings us into my next point, which is your CV. I actually didn't know what a CV was when I got into this industry. That's another word for resume. And that's really important. So a lot of boats will hire a green crew, meaning you don't have boat experience, but not many. Most people want you to at least have, 1 or 2 or 3 boat jobs. And then once you have a few jobs, like I started this with just 3 jobs on my resume that were kind of random, helping a friend on a boat. Some of it was kind of bullshit. I didn't really make some stuff up, but I'd spend time on boats where I wasn't really getting paid to work, but I was able to put that on my resume, and I was able to start getting jobs right away. So we want to just help you get those first 2 or 3 jobs on your resume. We can help you make the resume so that it looks really professional. You're going to need references, and ideally people really like food photos and some reviews. So we can help you get all that set up. So your first few jobs, you might not make a lot of money, but you'll get the experience you need to start making a lot of money. And it's pretty easy to work your way up in this industry. Like, I started at $200 a day, and within 6 months I was up to $400 a day as a yacht chef, including tips, and you don't have to pay rent. And it's a pretty awesome
And
business
a lot
to
of
be.
this